So I do think that appropriately promoting your value, because no one sees how hard you work. No one, no one, no one, no one, no one. No one sees the dedication that you put in the way that you see it. So if you don't highlight it, no one's going to notice.
Many people want to be leaders. Fewer understand what it really means to lead people well. So what separates the two? Welcome to the Lead with Purpose podcast with your host, Merv Jersak. Each week, you'll hear honest conversations with leaders who have been in the trenches and have stories to tell. They'll share their practical wisdom to help cut through the noise and get to the heart of leadership. So let's get started.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Lead with Purpose podcast. For my listeners, and I have a very personal question to ask you because I went through this, but have you ever worked your tail off, delivered such great results, and you still felt invisible? My guest today is a good friend, 𝘊𝘩𝘪𝘴, and she says that's not a performance problem, it's a visibility problem. But let me assure you, visibility is not ego. Visibility is not self-promotion, but visibility is a leadership communication at scale. So today we're going to we're going to unpack how leaders can stop hiding behind their hard work and start showing up with clarity and confidence and influence and be visible. So 𝘊𝘩𝘪𝘴, welcome to Lead with Purpose.
Merv, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Well, I'm just glad I bumped into you I guess it was 3 weeks ago now. I hadn't seen you for a couple of years. So that was a great time that we got to connect again.
It was.
And here you are.
And here we're together again.
Yes.
Forever and ever, you and me, my friend.
There we go. So before we get into the actual interview, can you just give us a couple minutes and tell our guests a little of your story, how you went from a great corporate career to building a business around what I just talked about, freedom and clarity and impact, and how you help leaders turn visibility into their success?
Yes. So my background is in corporate America. I spent 15 years as an IT project manager and an IT software developer. I worked mostly in the financial space. So I worked at, honestly, like every major financial institution you can think of, Citibank and Chase and JP Morgan. And like I worked at all Countrywide Home Loans and all the big ones, right? So I worked in the financial space. I spent 7 years working in New York City on Wall Street. So that was part of those 15 years. And in 2010, I was a consultant at the largest mortgage bank in the United States. And I actually used to call this my year of financial ruin. I now call it my year of the Phoenix. More to come. I came into work one Friday morning in 2010 to an email that essentially said, "Dear Ms. Brady, thank you so much for your 8 years of excellent service. Today is your last day, right? Security's on its way. Pack up your things."
Oh,
Right. Ooh. Yeah, no kidding. Like a dagger through my heart. I mean,
yeah.
I was like, what? Right. So I used to call this my year of financial ruin because in a 5-month period, I lost my fancy, very, very high paying consulting gig. I lost my place to live. Yes,
Ooh,
I did.
ouch.
I did. No, I burnt my life to the ground, Merv. I lost my place to live. It was 1 block from the ocean here in Los Angeles. To add insult to injury, my boyfriend left me. My friends say he was in it for the money. Who knows? All I know is that when the money left, so did he. Do the math. And so I ended up moving to like a place I didn't want to live. Like I call it a crap shack in the middle of nowhere. It's all I could afford. And a super fast forward is that towards the end of my corporate career, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to start my own business. But the real truth is I was never going to leave that paycheck. That's the truth.
Mm.
And so the gift I was given was losing my job when the economy was in the toilet and there were no jobs to be had. And I was sort of forced to put my money where my mouth is and become an entrepreneur. And I can't even believe that was 16 years ago. And over the last 16 years, right, I have, started as a solopreneur and have grown a business. And now I have, 10 team members, and we've helped thousands, literally thousands of business owners create millions of dollars of revenue through the power of social media. And so I used to call it my year of financial ruin. I now call it my year of the Phoenix, because
There you go.
apparently I had to burn my life to the ground to have this beautiful life that I get to live now.
Well, hopefully my listeners aren't thinking that that's going to happen to them or something like that. But and then, that, and then
Don't
that's why you're on, because that's not why you're on. But I was going to say you walked away from a successful corporate career, but in fact you were asked to walk away from a successful career.
I
But
was.
I sense that not going back into corporate, that you were feeling that something didn't fit. So in your thoughts now, looking back, what do you think was missing? And how do you think leaders who are listening to you and me today could recognize when they are perhaps succeeding externally, but they're
Yeah.
misaligned internally?
Yeah. So I will tell you towards the end of my corporate career, I felt like a zombie. I felt like my soul had left my body. And it was from the outside. And Merv, you've been in this space. I was making a ton of money. It wasn't about the money. My soul, it was like soul crushing, right? I would just I'd show up to work with dread, wake up with a pit of despair in my stomach. Just the thought of putting on my suit to go to the office. It was literally nauseating to me. And so the body knows, right? My body did not want to go into the office anymore. My body didn't want to do it anymore. And so again, I was way too afraid to leave my paycheck. So I got to make a different choice. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I should have had you on last week, because a gentleman by the name of Paul Wilson also brought up the Sunday night blues and, getting into the office the next morning. So that's, and his thought was all around alignment as well.
No,
Uh,
and now the juxtaposition of that is I do a team meeting with my current team and my current company every Monday. And the first thing I say is TGIM, right? Thank God
yeah,
it's Monday, because we
nice.
get to dig in and serve people and dig into all of our projects again. And so it's I live in a different world now. But again, I'm not vilifying jobs, and believe me, I'm not vilifying anyone who has a job, and jobs are freaking amazing for so many reasons.
Well, they
So
are.
many
In
reasons.
fact, I spent a lot of years in jobs as well.
A lot, yeah.
And most of my listeners aren't necessarily looking for an entrepreneurial lifestyle, but I suspect, or I sense from just this brief conversation we've already had, is that you have some lessons from your journey that can apply directly to someone who's within an organization and they're climbing that leadership ladder.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And what might those be, Bridget?
You're like, go right ahead, Bridget.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
Well, I think, looking back on my corporate career, which I know you were in corporate for much longer than I was, but 15 years is 15 years, right? And 7 years on Wall Street. And I mean, I was really in it. I think a couple things. You mentioned visibility. And I think that's something that I did well. I could have probably even done more, but I think one of the things I did well, which allowed me, now, of course, I was on Wall Street during the dot-com boom.
Okay.
So it was it was a very different time than it is now, right? It was a time, especially as a consultant, where you could successfully and ethically, with all integrity, sort of jump from position to position, and every time you jump, give yourself a 50% raise,
Mm,
right? Like that. I
yeah.
did that for 7 years, just jumping from one organization to another, bringing a tremendous amount of value. I think things have changed now. So I don't think that that's where we live today with that kind of culture. But back to visibility is, I think, what allowed me to become, even as an IT project manager, even as an IT software developer, to become kind of a superstar in the space, is I was never afraid to be in front of the room. I was never afraid to speak up in meetings. I was never afraid to showcase all of the work and the value that I was bringing to the organization. And so whether I was being promoted within organizations, which happened quite often as well, or I was able to like make a jump and say, oh, look what I did. I did this. I did the global integration of such and such software over at this financial organization. Would you like me to come do that for you? And they're like, yes, please. Like, please come integrate all of our software or whatever it was that I was doing at the time. So I do think that appropriately promoting your value, because no one sees how hard you work. No one sees the dedication that you put in the way that you see it. So if you don't highlight it, no one's going to notice.
No, yeah. And that's, let me go back to how I introduced this. When I talked about visibility, I said it was not ego and it's not self-promotion. But what it is a communication process that allows others to view you. So what you did is exactly what a lot of people in IT, mainly, I know this, 40 years in IT, is a lot of us are what was the word?
Introverts?
Introverts, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of us are introverts, and so we feel that our work should speak for itself, right? But I think that's a dangerous mindset.
I think it is. I think well, here's the thing. One, it's a dangerous mindset. But two, again, whether you are in corporate or you're an entrepreneur, the reality is people in general are extremely self-centered. And you know what people care about mostly is themselves and their own little circle. So I think the distinction of the work will speak for itself is that, again, no one, and I say this with so much love, no one cares. Like, not even your manager, not even the manager of all the managers. Like, they care about their goals and their benchmarks and their deliverables. And they'll notice when you don't. They'll notice when you're not doing your work.
That's true.
They'll notice that. But when you are doing these amazing things, I think appropriately showcasing them and allowing people to like see the dedication that you've put in can only help you, because people are very narrow focused.
Yeah. And you don't have to go beating your chest. You can let people know in meetings or whatever it is exactly what it is that you did that week. In fact, I used to do something with my teams where every morning we said, what did you do yesterday, or what did you complete yesterday? What are you going to finish today, and what are your problems? And that way people could voice what they were doing and get it out there in front of me. So
yes, I do the same thing in my team meetings. They have to do their 3 biggest accomplishments from the previous week, like their 3 biggest initiatives for this week, and like, do they have any challenges that they need our help with?
Yeah.
And it's useful.
And it's a way to get them to talk so that they are truly becoming more visible to you, because you're asking them to be more visible, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed about you, and we've known each other for several years now, probably 10, 12, 15 maybe?
Yeah, probably close to 15. Yeah.
One of the things I noticed about you is that in your entrepreneurial side, you help entrepreneurs truly clarify their message. And now from when I look at that in terms of a leader within an organization, how can you translate what you do with entrepreneurs to what it means for a leader to have a clear message inside an organization?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. Okay, so first and foremost, I think, again, coming from the perspective of leadership as a leader in an organization, I think that first, getting really clear on what your vision is within yourself, whatever your vision is, your mission, your directive, being really clear. And then almost over communicating that to your team again and again and again, right? Because again, just like all humans, your team, what's their focus? On themselves and their own life, right? And so I think having crystal clear, and I mean, I think a lot of corporations have this, but even maybe within your own teams and within your own little space, right? Having a written mission statement, having a written vision statement, having a written version of your core values, even if it's for your team, right? Because a lot of people, like I did, right? When I worked at Countrywide or Citibank or Chase, right? I'm not going to change their corporate mission statement, but I certainly could have a mission statement for my team. I could have a vision for my team. I could have core values for my team. And so I think not only having clarity around that, but then, right, having it in writing and almost over communicating that to your team so that everyone is moving in the same direction. I think that is huge, 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 huge.
Well, and a lack of clarity from a leader actually shows up, I think, negatively in a team's performance. Don't you agree?
I totally agree. And someone who did not start necessarily, even though I came from corporate and even though I managed teams, when I became the CEO of my own company, right, it was a whole different ballpark. And I learned actually a ton. Your friend and mine, one of my greatest mentors, Larry Broughton, he's been a mentor of mine for a very long time, who's a
Yes.
talk about leadership expert. He was instrumental in really teaching me how to be a CEO and lead my team. And I do think, right, all the things we said about having clarity with our team, because, oh, I used to almost think, truly, Merv, I used to almost think that my team lived inside my head. Right?
Mhm.
Like I almost like they know what I want. They know
Right.
what my expectations are. It's so obvious, right? And it was me learning, no, I have to spell it out very specifically. What are my expectations? Right? What are right? Not just hand them a task, but like, here's the 10 steps that need to happen to accomplish this initiative. Whew, it was a lot of internal work on my part because I just wanted everyone to read my mind.
And love you.
I just want everyone to love me and read my mind. It'd be so much easier.
Hey, by the way, I'm going to take a 30-second break right now and let my listeners and you, Bridget, know that I interviewed Larry Broughton, and it was one of my most favorite interview on Lead with Purpose. I think it was like episode maybe 4 or 5 or something like that. So go back and watch it. Larry is truly a genius when it comes to leadership.
He is. He is. He is.
So on this aspect of clarity, the fact that lack of clarity can show up in poor performance and all that. If you were to give my listeners, corporate leaders on their way up, one simple thing they can do when they shut down this podcast, how can they begin to immediately tighten their message starting right after this podcast?
Mm. It's going to be so out of the box for corporate, but I really believe this is the truth. Get really focused on who you're serving and get really focused on and again, it depends on the industry they're in and like, is it their clients or whatever it is, but get outside of yourself. And honestly, get outside. And I'm a big believer in SOPs and all those things. I spent a long time in corporate. Get outside of yourself, think about who you're serving, and really think about what do they need? What do they actually need? What do they actually want? How can you actually serve them at the highest level? And then reverse engineer everything you do in the name of service to your client, whether your client is, a huge organization or an individual.
That you just reminded me while you're saying that, I went to a community meeting here. Now that I'm retired, I can actually go to community meetings. And our council person came and she did exactly what you just said. So I'm not even talking corporate. I'm talking in a political sense or a serving sense that way. And she did that. She stood up there for an hour and a half, ad lib, took every question and served the person asking the question. And
Well, and
she went away with a whole bunch of votes right there.
right. Well, and that is true, right? That's real power and that's real influence, right? Like when people are in, you said the word ego, and it's so interesting. When people are focused on themselves, it's really it's all ego, right? How do I look? How do I sound? How is this? Whatever. It's all ego and people can feel it. And it's so gross, honestly. When someone is truly interested in like serving the person or the business or the project in front of them, totally it shifts communication, it shifts the energy around that thing. And again, that's where true influence comes, because your team can also feel the difference, right? If you're really trying to serve your team or you're leading them towards serving your client, it's a totally different world.
Well, in some ways, it's what you were saying before. People are most interested in what they can do for themselves. So if I, as a leader, work with my team, I understand that I'm basically reading into their wanting to love themselves or to get out, things for themselves. So
Right.
if
Yes.
if I read into that, then they're going to accept my leadership much more strongly.
Yes.
All right. So here's one that I think some of my audience probably feels, and that's the whole idea around burnout, busyness. They get so busy and then they pretty soon, and you mentioned it way earlier, those Sunday night blues going into the office the next day. But you, in your entrepreneurial sense, emphasize growth without the burnout trap. So in corporate life, burnout, I know this. I mean, I've seen it. Burnout is everywhere. What are leaders getting wrong in that whole idea of allowing burnout to happen?
Well, I think a couple things. I think especially in a corporate arena, I believe that it serves a leader to be much more focused on outcome than hours,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
I think that, again, I came from a world of Wall Street and dot-com boom where we worked. Oh my gosh. Oh, Merv, the last job I ever had in corporate in New York City on Wall Street. I will not say the name of the company because I'm not going to defame anyone, but it was a smaller IT firm, like right downtown Wall Street. And I kid you not, we had to be in the office at 8 a.m. and we were shamed if we left before 10 p.m. Shamed, Merv. Now, did they pay me a lot of money? I mean, they threw money at us. And at the time I was just coding. I wasn't a project manager yet. I was just writing code. And I would come into the office and literally just sit and write code from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., Monday through Friday. And that's when that was so soul crushing. It was the last job I had on Wall Street. And it was like crushing my soul. And I always remember thinking, well, but if the job is done and the client's going to be happy, like, why would I have to stay till 10? Like, what is this weird culture where I'm shamed if I leave? I mean, it was a ridiculous job. Honestly, I wasn't there for long and I quit. It was ridiculous. But I do think that our, our benchmarks, again, especially in corporate, I believe are more about performance and outcome. And I think when you give your team the freedom to complete their tasks with joy and move the project forward, and if it means they're done early or they take a long lunch or they take an extra day off, but everything is running great, right? Like they're humans, like give them that time to be humans, or they'll be like me and they'll just quit. That's what I did. That job. I quit that job.
On many projects, I had the opposite feeling, and that was, and I will name the company, it was Deloitte Consulting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I worked with,
I'm familiar.
yeah, when I worked with their, a lot of times people would come around the desk and be 9 o'clock at night. They'd say, "Hey, let's go for Indian food." And it's 9 o'clock at night and you're sitting there and you put in the whole day and it's like an hour went by because everyone was kind of focused on the job, enjoying life. And at 9 o'clock, 40 people, 30 people, 12 people, we'd get together, have a nice dinner or something, and we'd be back at it again the next day. So yeah, I think there is a way. And what you just said, it has to come from the leader in order you're not pushing a culture of negativity on people, but you're actually helping them probably field their own goals as well. So
Well, and also lifting them up. And I will say her name. The best boss that I ever had. It was at Citibank. Her name was Candice Czar. Candy, if you're listening to this, you're the best boss I ever had. And she was so great because she had a clear vision and she was clear with me. And, she was brilliant and amazing, but she truly had my best interest at heart. And I was, at the time, it was the very, very beginning of my corporate career. So I was like a little I was very entry level, and she pulled me into her office, and it was to her detriment because I was going to join another team. She was like, "You're too smart for this job. I think you need to be over here on this team. And
nice.
so I'm going to send you, she like paid for me, or a corporate paid, probably Citibank paid. She's like, I'm going to send you to this specialized training to learn these skills because I think you would be better on this other team." And it was like, in a way, life-changing, right? Like, I learned skills that I wouldn't have otherwise learned. And we're not really in touch anymore, but like, I love her to this day because she actually put me like before herself, which I think is very rare
Yeah.
in leadership, especially
It
in
is.
corporate. Very
That's
rare.
that's what we would call a servant leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So,
Bridget, our time is winding down, but
uh,
what I do like to do, I like to get some creative juices well, not that they haven't been flowing with you, they're always flowing,
ready,
right?
ready.
But just some quick questions and answers. So first thing that comes to your mind when I ask you this. So what do you think? Clarity comes first or creativity?
Clarity.
Okay. Confidence first or competence? Confidence or competence?
I actually think confidence. If you don't have confidence, you don't become competent at anything.
Yeah. Can you think of a word that kills influence? You mentioned influence a few times. A word that could kill influence.
A word that could kill influence. No, I think just, I think the energy of no. I think influence is the energy of yes and, right?
Yeah.
Like, right,
No, that's good.
like good old-fashioned improvisation, right? The energy of influence is yes and, as
Yeah.
opposed to no. It
Yeah.
stops everything.
One more and then and then we'll close this. But one thing that you would tell your corporate self of 16 years ago.
The truth, save more of that money. You will not have a paycheck for the rest of your life.
You know,
Save that money.
that is good. So one thing I love to do at the end of every interview is allow you to plug your business, what it is that you do for people. I know you have a business called Amp Up My Biz app. Anyway, you tell us how people can get hold of you, what you can do for people, and if they want to connect, what are those connecting points?
Yes. So as Merv mentioned, my current business, I have an online marketing company. It is called Amp Up My Biz. And we help entrepreneurs and small business owners grow their business and generate unlimited leads through the awesome power of social media. And the best way to learn more and get a hold of me is through just my main website, ampupmybiz.com. And there's a couple really fun things there. There's a download of my personal 7 simple strategies to brand yourself, build your business, and bank more profits. And I have a couple of free trainings coming up that you can register for right on my website, ampupmybiz.com. So come on down. I'd love to meet you.
And if people are listening to this 6 months from now, you revolve those master classes every so often, right?
I do. I do. Yes, yes, yes. I almost always have some kind of like training or master class. Because I am a servant leader, right? Because I'm a go-giver. I always like to
Good.
give back.
Very good. Well, Bridget, this was strong. And what I love about the conversation that you and I always have, not just today, but that you just don't talk about marketing or what you do for people, but you talk today about clarity and confidence and visibility, which I think in many ways is the courage to be seen. And so that's truly valuable to people, for our listeners and for my listeners. This whole conversation is about building influence, making your value visible to those around you, realizing that hard work, and you do work hard, but that alone is not enough. You have to communicate it. You have to be consistent and intentional. So my listeners, here's a challenge. Stop waiting to be noticed. Start showing up with purpose, because when you do, you don't just grow your career, you will actually amplify your impact. And that, my friends, is what it means to lead with purpose.
If today's conversation added value, make sure you subscribe. And if this episode resonated, please leave a quick review to help other leaders discover the show. And remember, leadership works best when you put people first. Let's lead with purpose, together.